Hey everybody, Arizona attorney David Enevolson here, and in this video I want to talk to you about how you actually calculate child support. Now, if you've looked at the child support guidelines and you are not an attorney, your eyes have probably glazed over because they can be a little bit confusing. In fact, it's a lot like, in my mind, it's akin to doing taxes when you're not an accountant. There's just a ton of stuff. In fact, this is a portion of one of the tables that is in the child support guidelines. So you can see there's a lot of crazy number stuff going on in there. Fortunately, for those of us who are not mathematically inclined, the state of Arizona has actually made it a little bit easier, and they have an online calculator that you can use to go in and plug in all the numbers and kind of figure out what child support is going to be. Now, generally speaking, when you're looking at child support, you're going to be plugging in the parenting time that both parents have, who has the child when, how much money everybody's making. You throw in some other expenses, and we're going to go through this in just a second. And then it spits out a number that is presumptively the child support amount. So in this video, we're just going to be going through all of that. To start this, go to your search engine of choice. Here I'm going to use Google. I think that's what most people use. And you're going to type in Arizona Child Support Calculator. Now, once you get in here, it should be your top link on there will be this one that says Arizona Courts. You're going to click on that. Now, if you want to, you can click on this 2015 Child Support Calculator. That's a shortcut to where we're going. But if you want to just take that top link, you can see down below here there's this 2015 Child Support Calculator. That's where we're ultimately going. There's some information on this main page. If you want to go through this, you can check what's there. The main thing we're trying to get to, for purposes of this video at least, is this 2015 child support calculator. Just as a little backdrop, there was a rule change in 2015, and we've been using those same basic rules related to the child support guidelines since then, so that's what we're looking at, even though it may be 2018, 2019 when you're doing this, as long as there's not another rule change. And at least as of the time that this video was made, which was in 2018, this is the most recent version. So click on this 2015 child support calculator, and it's going to bring us to this page where we see there's a whole bunch of different fields to fill in, a whole bunch of numbers. Most people's eyes glaze over. The first several times I looked at this, my eyes glazed over, so don't feel too daunted when you're looking at it. There's a lot of fields in here we can fill out, and there's a couple different ways we can treat this. One is to use this in a way where we're just trying to get a quick number, get the number, move on, so we have it for informational purposes. Another is you can use it to actually print out a worksheet that you can take into court, hand it to the judge, you can attach it to filings, motions, pleadings, that sort of thing. If you want to do that, once you've filled out the calculator, there's this link right here that says print worksheet that will generate a worksheet that you can use to do whatever you need to with it. When we're going through, we're going to start off by filling out who you are, so petitioner, respondent. Here we'll just say we're working for the petitioner. Then you're going to fill in the name of the person filing. So here we'll say John Doe is the one filling it out. Put in the petitioner name, the respondent name, John Doe, Jane Doe. If you're going to click in your case number if you've got one already. If you're in Maricopa County, they usually start with FC and then the year and then some numbers after that. If you're in a different county, they're going to use different numbering system, so it just kind of depends on where you are there. This 4D box, you're going to check that, and this doesn't matter for just getting the calculation. This is more information if you need to actually file this document or hand it to the court or something. The 4D case, that you're going to check if the Attorney General is a party to your case for purposes of child support. That's kind of the short version of what's going on. If the Attorney General is not involved and they haven't designated this as a 4D case, then don't even worry about checking that box. So we're going to leave that off right now. The Atlas number is a number used by DES, so if you have that number you can fill that in. If not, don't worry about it. This next box here under this section 2, time sharing arrangement, this is a pretty critical piece of this whole calculator. Now, when you use the drop down, you're going to see there it's got essentially equal, mostly with mother, mostly with father, mostly with mother. There's a third-party caregiver, which I'm not going to address that in this particular video. So most of the time you're going to be dealing with one of these top 3 situations. If you have a completely equal parenting plan or pretty close to equal parenting plan, you're going to hit essentially equal. For purposes of this video, I'm going to pick, there's a disparity here, so let's take kind of the prototypical example, which is mostly with mother. Then you're going to put in the names of any children you have, And if you are just worried about getting a quick number, just put in the date of birth because that's the most important piece of this. But if you want to, again, print this out so you can use it, fill in the rest here. So let's say it's Susie Doe is the name of her child, and she was born on January 1st of 2015. And you can, if you have other children, obviously fill in these other fields here. Then we're going to scroll down to this next page, or next section, section 3, where we're going to start entering in on the financial information. Now it's pretty important that you put in financial information for both of mother and father in this. One important note is that most of the time, even if somebody's not working under the Arizona Child Support Guidelines, you're going to be putting in minimum wage for that person. So even if they're completely unemployed, with a few weird exceptions, like if somebody's in prison, then you're not going to impute minimum wage. But most of the time, even if they're not working, you plug in minimum wage. At the time of this video, it's $10.50 in Arizona. So that's what we're going to plug in for, say, mother. Let's pretend she's not working in this situation. And let's pretend that dad is making, say, $65,000 a year. So we'll plug that in here. Now, one thing to be aware of is there's this little drop down right underneath that, and it's going to qualify how you're entering this information. So it's obviously hourly, monthly, yearly. In this scenario, notice I've put mom at $10.50 an hour. So we've got the hour thing there. Here I'm saying dad is $65,000 per year. Now, when you're actually going through and punching out all the actual numbers, you're worried about the monthly basis, but for purposes of this calculator, they've made it super easy. You just need to make sure that you're keeping these two straight. Then you're going to go down this list here. So if we're in, say, a divorce or something, and we've got spousal maintenance coming in and being paid, you're going to put that on both sides of the formula here, right, in one in each column. So let's say that here dad is paying mom $1,000 a month in spousal maintenance. So here you're going to put $1,000 paid, so that's lining up with this paid column by dad, and then mom is receiving $1,000. And notice that's going to change this number down here, which is basically what this is the child support obligation totally, and then how much of it everybody has in their proportionate shares. If you have, before I move on from that, if you have some other stuff in here, like if you have kids from different relationships, you can fill that in here. So if you've got this first section here is for custodial, let me go up, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Custodial parent to other children subject to court orders. If you've got that, you can fill these in here. You just use the appropriate drop down to put how many kids are in there. Court ordered child support paid for children of other relationships. So if you've got that, again, same thing, except that here you're putting in the actual child support amount. So if you're getting paid something, then you're going to put that in. Excuse me, if you're paying something, you're going to put that in. Then you've got the other natural adopted children not subject of court orders. So this is a common one in situations where you have like a new love interest and somebody has another kid with somebody they're still with. You're probably going to plug that in there. And then that's kind of the main stuff you're worried about there. Let's scroll down a little bit. This next section here under additions, you're going to be putting anything, start worrying about where the medical, dental, vision insurance is. If somebody's paying for medical, dental, and vision insurance or any of that, you're going to fill in the amount of the monthly premium that is being paid out. Now, one key point to this is you're not paying the collective monthly premium, because most of the time when you have a medical, dental, vision premium, it's for something like the family or dad and the kids. What you're worried about here is just what's being paid for by the children. Now, if you don't know what that is, a lot of times people will just divide it by the number of people that are covered and then put that amount in there for each of the children. But if you do know what it is, you can just plug it in there. Now I'm just going to pick a number out of the air here. Let's say the dad is paying $80 per month in medical, dental, vision. So we'll plug that in there. Next line here, we've got monthly child care costs that are being paid. So if you've got daycare expenses, then you're going to plug that in here. Let's say the mom is spending $600 a month in some daycare costs. Now that I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. These numbers can be all over the place. I've seen in excess of 1,000. I've seen lower than that. They're whatever that number is, as long as you can prove it. Be also aware that this is a discretionary number. The court can kick back at you about it if this is a fought out situation, but this is where it goes. If you've got some extra educational expenses, you can plug those in here. If you've got some extraordinary gifted handicap type things, you can plug these numbers in here. Then we're going to scroll down here, And most of this stuff you can, for the most part, not worry about. The number down on this bottom section is going to tell you how much the child support obligation is and who's paying it. So in this situation, at least so far, you can see that father, right here, is being expected to pay $957.54 per month to mother. So it's showing up in his column. It also says it over here on the side that it's father that's paying that. Now, there is one key thing that a lot of people actually forget to plug in, and that is right here. If you have, remember back up at the top, we had this time-sharing arrangement. If this is not an equal, if this is not the equal scenario, then it is important that you plug in something in this box right here under this parenting timetable A. What you're going to plug in there is basically how many days per year, not basically, it is how many days per year the parent that is not the primary residential parent has the child. Say that one more time, just to make sure we're clear. So in this situation, mom is the one that has the kid most of the time. We have mostly with, excuse me, I put that in wrong. Mostly with mother. So we have mostly with mother there. So she's the one that has the kid the majority of the time. So here we're going to look at how many days per year does dad have the kid. Because the theory is if he's got the kid, then he shouldn't be paying child support for that time where he's caring for the child. So in this scenario, let's just say that the parenting plan arrangement is, say, 90 days a year he's got the kid. And then it's going to auto-calculate some stuff, and you'll see that that changes the number around a little bit. So now his number dropped down to $793.32. And perhaps unfortunately, perhaps fortunately, depending on your stance on this, this is actually one of the major points of contention with parenting plan arrangements and people fighting for time, is that sometimes what they're really worried about is this child support calculation. They don't necessarily want the actual time with the kid, but they either want more money on this or they want to pay less money on this, something like that. So this is sort of an unfortunate byproduct, but this is kind of how it is. Now, I will also tell you that you should look at the child support calculation as being independent of what you're looking at in terms of the parenting plan. So obviously, as a practical matter, they're intertwined because you are putting the number of days per year, or you're changing this to an equal plan, which you can see also how this changes things. Notice this number went down again when we have an equal parenting plan arrangement. So that's something that can be a point of contention that people are fighting over just because of this. Now, there are benefits to that. This is my little side commentary. There are benefits to that in that sometimes a kid might be getting exposed to a parent that they might not otherwise be getting exposed to. The sort of counterpoint to that is that if you've got a parent that's not really a good parent for the kid, or shouldn't really be spending as much time as they would otherwise be in the way that they're fighting for it, then maybe that's not as good for the kid. The corollary to that is that theoretically that should be getting worked out by way of the parenting plan. So the court is supposed to be taking into consideration all these other factors in terms of what's good for the kid and what is indeed in the best interest of the kid. At any rate, enough of the commentary about that side issue, but that is one of the major things that people fight over. Now, as you can see when we were going through here also, the worksheet is pretty static. That is to say, like you're plugging in things and it just sort of is what it is. Once you get this number at the end, that's pretty much what it is, unless the parties are agreeing to deviate, or unless the court for some really valid reason says, okay, we should deviate because of whatever this is. But most of the time, this is the number you're looking at. Parties can agree to change it. Court can, for some really good cause, deviate from this, but this is, most of the time, this is just what it is, and this amount is just going to get paid on a monthly basis. The things that you're usually arguing about in the child support calculation all revolve around the numbers that you're plugging in here. So it could be things like, oh, you're not really spending that $600 a month in childcare. You're actually just paying your parents who are paying you right back, or something like that. Those are common arguments. Another really common argument is the amount of the income. Let's say here that dad was self-employed and he's taking all sorts of amenities through the business or some such thing. Maybe there's some argument about what he's really making or what mom is really making or what she should be making. This is another one. Sometimes people can be imputed higher amounts of income. Let's say in this situation, mother is not employed, but she's trained as a doctor and has had experience as a doctor and just quit working right before this case started, in which case making her out at $10.50 an hour at minimum wage doesn't really make any sense. We're probably going to have a much higher rate in there. And let's just say she was making 90 grand a year as a doctor. Remember, we got to adjust this. You can see how this changes the equation, even though all these other things are going on. Now mom is the one that's paying child support. So all these different little things can alter the entire equation, and really that's what you're looking at, is who's paying what, how are things getting plugged in here. The numbers themselves are the things you're fighting over. As you can see, this can be a little bit confusing. If you kind of work through it, it can be fairly straightforward. Again, if you want to create a PDF out of this that you can use to file with the court or something, you just click on that print worksheet button, and then it's going to pop up this PDF, which, as you can see here, you can either print out or attach it to a filing and electronically, or however you want to use this particular worksheet. But this is in a nutshell how the child support calculator would be used. If this still makes your eyes roll, or you just want to get someone to double check, which I highly encourage you talk to, because the child support guidelines alone can be very intricate. There's a lot of different stuff that can influence the things that are going on here, can change the numbers that are getting plugged in. If you're in one of those situations, I highly encourage you to talk to an attorney and just get some basic information, even if you're not fully hiring them, even if you don't have the money to pay for a full-on representation. Just spend an hour, pay for an hour to sit down and talk to an attorney, and just make sure you understand what's going on. Make sure you understand your basic legal rights and obligations, and make sure that you're not making an unsound decision.